Hello, I hope you're well. I'm happy to introduce a free tool, or more precisely a free geometry node setup called BlendCamTarget, in what will hopefully be a short overview or tutorial explaining how to use it. I'll go over the various features and add some general rambling and credits at the end of the video. You can download the Blender file containing the setup from the link in the post or description below. It's important to note that this tool is still a work in progress. You could call this a beta version, but it's very usable, and I'm looking forward to you trying it out, and will happily listen to any feedback, suggestions, or even offers to help. So what does BlendCamTarget do? At its core, it simply drives your camera from predefined targets located in the world space, moving it from target A to target B, to target C, to target D, and so on. The setup reads the targets from the aptly named targets collection, and goes through them in order from top to bottom. In theory, you can have an unlimited number of targets, and you can add or delete them as you go along. To move the camera from target to target, you need to keyframe the index target slider, where 0 would be our initial position, and then you go from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and to infinity and beyond. The targets can be placed anywhere in world space, not only side by side. The camera will also align its rotation parallel to the target's orientation. Let's go back to the previous target and adjust its orientation a bit and see what happens. As we've established, the camera will dynamically adapt to the position and orientation of the target. If for any reason you don't want your camera to align with the target's rotation, you have this handy slider called Rotate by Target, in which the value 1 would always align to target rotation, and the value 0 would never align to target rotation. You can also use any value between. We'll leave it on 1 and move on to look at more capabilities. There are additional options to control the camera's offset relative to the target. You can orbit around the target with pitch, roll, or yaw, and also change its position with pan, track, or lift, a bit of emulating a camera crane. By default, the setup is rigged to always look at the target, but you can choose whether you'd like to look at it as you offset the transformations, or not. The values you change in the manual offsets will remain from target to target, but you can keyframe the values during the transition, or before it. It's really up to you. Now let's crank up the complexity a bit more. If you're feeling extra lazy, you can also automate the offsets and have the system animate the camera for you. The system will add or subtract the value you insert with each following frame, making animation a breeze. The auto offset resets between targets, starting from scratch, but you can also disable that using the Reset on Next Target slider, with 1 always resetting, 0 never resetting, and any value between, which you'll see as a common slider theme. You also have the option of easing into the movement each time you transition to a new target by pushing the Ease In Amount slider and then telling it how many frames you'd like the ease in to last. For example, 5 frames. Or 30 frames. I'll turn the auto offsets off for now. Good. Moving on, I'd like just to show a simple concept. Oh, wait, this object is too big, I need to track out a bit. Let's say you have a moving object in your scene, and you'd like to follow it around, like a stalker, or a cinematographer, or a stalker director-cinematographer. You can simply parent your target to the moving object and ride along. Exciting, isn't it? How about some camera shake? You can shake the camera by using the noise amount and noise frequency sliders. Of course, because we're set to look at the target, when you use position noise, the system will rotate the camera around it. We can decrease the look at value, and it will shake the camera without affecting its rotation at the cost of the target no longer being centered. Now, you can also use a shake on rotation, increase its values, which gives a much more fluid feel to the movement. Now, if we return the look at value to its max, the rotation noise becomes redundant and cancels out. However, to shake things up, if you don't want to fiddle with your look at values during this whole ordeal, but still get that sweet rotation noise, you can re-add it using the rotation look at offset slider. Ah, that's a mouthful. This keeps the camera centered on the target with position noise, but adds a layer of rotation noise on top of it. Once you get a noise result you like, and things are shaking, you can control the overall strength using the noise strength slider. Another simple concept I'd like to demonstrate is using a curve path to drive the position of the target. Not too dissimilar to parenting the target to an object. So we have this curve, let's make it into a tunnel. I've already constrained the target to the curve and keyframed the offset factor. Once we reach the curve-driven target, the camera will nicely follow along, going in one end and coming out the other, then moving on to the next target. Ah, but there's a problem. When we move from target 8 to target 9, the camera goes through the tunnel's exterior, something you'd probably want to avoid. That is because the transition uses a straight line between each target. We can see the line by toggling Show Transition Curve on. This will show you the path the system takes between your current target and the next target. To address the problem of going through walls, we can turn the straight line into an arc by offsetting the tangent. In this case, a value of 5 will do. Now our camera path first shoots forward and then bends towards its next position. You can also rotate this curve so it can go up or down and all around. Remember that this setting does not reset during transitions, so if you want different arcs between different targets, you'll need to keyframe the values. Okay, only about 2 more features to review. Bounce. Let's turn it on. It actually should be named elasticity, but that means I need to rename a bunch of internal node groups, and I'm too tired to do it now. I'll probably change it come next version, or not. So, bounce. We can add a small bounce every time we reach a new target. You can add position bounce. Or you can add rotation bounce. Or you can add both. Now it will bounce nicely at the end of a transition. We'll bounce off to our last feature, I'm sorry for all the puns really, which is banking. To illustrate what I mean, I've created this nice graphic. When you want banking, you can offset the position and rotation of the camera during transitions. The system can either add a roll or a lift or both during transition. By default, the movement oscillates, meaning that at a quarter of the transition duration, it will go with the values you wrote in, and at 3/4 of the transition duration, it will go in the opposite direction. If you'd like it to bank only one way, you can cancel the oscillation, and then the movement will look like this, peaking halfway through the transition. Amazing. Before I forget, to all you cinematic depth of field lovers out there, we also have this toggle to turn on focus. The focus object moves from target to target along with the camera. You can then manually change its position. The autofocus system is not fully fleshed out yet, but it is working and will be improved in the upcoming updates. Last thing I'd like to point out is that the keyframes use Blender's curve interpolation, which you can of course change in the graph editor for extra dramatic effects. In essence, you have the flexibility of having the system completely automated by pre-adjusting the settings to your liking and only animating the index slider, creating nice, easy and dynamic movements between targets, which is helpful for long one-shot scenes. Or you can complicate everything, just like me building this system, by animating all the different controllers, getting that nuanced feel that we animators love to be proud of. So, we've pretty much gone through most of the options, which concludes the explanation part of the video. Happy targeting! Now, as promised, some general rambling. First of all, if you can count the number of times I said target throughout the video, you'll get a prize. A big, virtual hug. Second, I'd also like to point out I'm not an expert level user of geometry nodes. Far from it. This setup took me a long time to, well, set up. It was a lot of trial and error, and a lot of frustrating conversations with ChatGPT into the night. But I have managed to outsmart Chat once or twice, after it took me through endless looping rabbit holes, making me wear my proud vest on. A thing I've struggled with mostly was rotation math, because as I've understood it, or more correctly, I really don't understand a thing, rotations are quaternions, but the math nodes are either floats or vectors, and we're using either degrees or radians, but mostly they're drowning me in mathematical despair. To perform some math operations on rotation values, because the camera rotates all over the place, affected by my many different lovable sliders, I had to do all sorts of conversions and deploy all sorts of tricks before and after using vector math, simply because there is no rotation math. Was I missing something? Is it planned? Is it even possible? If you know, feel free to leave a comment. Third, I'm working on this tool completely on my spare time, and since it is free to all and still in beta phase, if you have any feedback, suggestions, or even practical ways of helping out, don't be shy. I'd love to hear from you, especially if you find a few kinks or things are not behaving as you expect. Finally, some credits where credits are due. First, I'd love to credit Paul, or Paulumbo, who, a few years ago, uploaded this post on Blender Artists, showcasing an initial concept of a simple setup that moves a camera between targets. Since that post, the idea of building a complete camera control system has dwelt on me, and I'm glad to have recently gotten the time to work on it. Thank you, Paul. Paulumbo. Second, I'd like to thank Mayor Friedman of Friday Lab Studios for patiently, very patiently, teaching me entry-level geometry nodes a few years ago, explaining the logic behind it, and bravely and slowly showing me it's not so daunting. Only a bit daunting. Check out Friday Lab Studios at www.fridaylab.studio. Third, I'd like to thank Andrew Kramer of Video Copilot. Mostly I use After Effects as my main tool for motion graphics and animation. Not only did Andrew create amazing tutorials and tools that helped me immensely over the years, 17 years and counting, but he also made the After Effects script SureTarget, which absolutely is the inspiration and namesake behind BlendCamTarget. Last, thank you, not thank you, ChatGPT, you soulless, time-wrenching genius freak. Until it takes over the world, I do hope you enjoy this, and looking forward to your response. Goodbye.